Hey, I'm Srini, the creator of Maximize Your Output with Mem. Have you ever found yourself lost in a sea of notes while working on your next masterpiece? Are you a writer who's wished for a magic tool that could organize your thoughts, ideas, and references in a snap? Well, you're in the right place because today we're exploring Mem, a game changer for writers. We'll dive into how to streamline your writing process, cross reference with ease, and transform your scattered notes into a well structured, interconnected knowledge base. So if you're ready to supercharge your writing workflow and make your ideas flow like never before, you're in the right place. So let's get started.
So what I'm going to show you in this video is a way to drastically streamline your writing process if you are a nonfiction author. Now, one of the challenges with writing nonfiction work like blog posts or books is that we frequently need to reference different information. Maybe it's notes from a book that you've read, maybe it's notes from a podcast transcript. It might be any number of things. And so often those things are either stored in different tools or they're stored in different documents within the same tool. So for example, if you have everything inside one Google Doc, you might have to scroll a lot to find what it is you're looking for, or you might have to open another document, and so you end up with this just browser tab clutter. But inside of Mem, we have a couple of features that actually make this way easier. The first is bi-directional links. So what we're going to do here is we're going to use the example of organizing the information that we need in order to write a blog post. So in this case, I'm going to reference a interview that I did with a guy named Laszlo Barbasi, who happens to be the author of a book called The Formula. So now I've already got two of the references that I need. Now, the other thing you'll see here is that if I want to reference this, I can easily just click on this. I can pull in different quotes if I wanted to. So I can either put the quotes in, right here into the part where I'm organizing the information or referencing it, or when I'm ready to use that note, I can just click that and go back to it. So in this case, we've got a quote from the book. And so we're just going to put that there, and you can keep adding different things here. So we'll add a few other notes as well. So I'm going to go ahead and add another note. And so here we go. Another one about performance being bounded, and then networks driving success when performance is measurable. So another thing that is really useful about this is that when you are organizing these notes, you don't have to do it in a linear order. So one of the most valuable pieces of writing advice I ever got was that your structure has to be linear, but your process doesn't. And so often when we try to follow a linear process, particularly when it comes to doing things like writing an article, we get stuck because we have an idea of what we want to write about for one section, but we don't know what we want to write about for the next section that might be in our outline. And this actually facilitates our ability to work nonlinearly so that you can just write about any idea as it comes to you. So in a lot of ways, you can think of notes in Mem as puzzle pieces. And when you're ready to put the puzzle together, in this case, your article, you then just start to put all the notes together in one particular note. So, I'm going to add a few more notes here, and we're going to add a note about the Q factor. These are all things that I've been writing for an article that I've already started writing, so it's going to work pretty quickly. But you'll notice how quickly we were able to just add all of these things together. In a matter of a few seconds, we've just added references with bidirectional links. So that's one example of how we can put our references together. Now, another way we can put references together is through something called collections, and collections are basically just tags. So let's just say, for example, I basically want to name the collection for this article Laws of Success. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to create a collection here. You can see here that you have an option to add to a collection if you want. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a new collection here, and I'm going to call it Laws of Success. And so now what we can do is we can go into here and we can add this to our collection, Laws of Success, as well, if we wanted to. So we can either do tags or put that right there. So we've got Law of Success. We're going to go ahead and then, add this one. This has already been added. So let's go ahead and add this one as well. And so bit by bit, what we're doing now is we are just putting all of these into one collection. So let's say that you have an idea for an article that you want to write about. You're not sure which notes you'll use, which notes you don't want to use, or whatever it is. So what we could do now is if we go to the Law of Success collection, you can see here that I have all these different notes, and now they're all just part of this collection. So this could just be the collection that I use as my point of reference for the article. So when I go back to the article itself, what I can do, instead of having to link all of these, rather than linking all of these, what I can do is I can just say, let me put laws of success here as a tag. And if we remove that, what you'll see here, so I can still access everything that I need to just because of the fact that it's all in the collection. So I don't actually have to put this into the outline. So you have two different ways to reference information really quickly. And just by putting it all together in that one collection for this article that I'm writing, I can organize all of my notes far in advance of writing the article, even though I'm not sure what the structure is going to be, which is why it is so powerful to be able to work non-linearly. So now let's go into the piece where we're going to organize. So in a lot of ways, referencing and organizing kind of overlap inside of Mem, but we're going to put these notes back in here. And now that they're right there on the side, we have a couple of different notes. You can see it also recommends different notes. So I'm going to go ahead and add this note to that collection as well. And that's another thing that's really cool about Mem is the fact that it uses associative recall. So even if you might not have thought to use a note, it might just show up. So we're going to just put all of these notes together here, and we're going to basically say, each note that we might want to use in this article. We'll go ahead and put this here as well. We will add our note on the Q factor here. And so we basically put together, a couple of different notes. And then what we're going to do is we can go ahead and then put all of these notes. You can see here that I'm just making a list of all the different notes that I might want to use. And here's one about the scripts we inherit about success. So maybe I can put that in there as well. I can say, something like bad advice that sounds good in self-help books and motivational seminars. That's another note that I wrote a while back because I wanted to explore this idea of an evidence-based approach to success. So now I've got about 7 or 8 different notes here. And you can see in a matter of a few seconds, I can either click on the note if I want to reference it. I can go through each note and see, or I can actually just bring the content into here. So instead of, having to scroll through a giant Google Doc or a giant bunch of folders or like a bunch of different documents, everything that I need in order to write this article is right here. So for the sake of making this a little more interesting, what we're going to do is I'm going to add a few more quotes here as well. So we'll just start adding some quotes here to keep this, like a bit more diverse. And so we're just going to go ahead and add these quotes. And so you can see here that I've also bolded everything. So in a lot of ways, what we are doing by working this way is we're automating a lot of the concepts from Tiago Forte's book, Building a Second Brain, without having to go through the headaches of remembering where everything is. We're just able to capture everything that we need, find it when we need it, and put it to use when we need it. And so what we can do now is then we have all of these notes ready to go. And you can see here that I have basically just a sample article with a bunch of different headers. And so I could start putting all of these notes under each appropriate header. Now, the other thing I can do is I can actually use one of Mem's AI features and just turn this into an outline. So I can basically copy this. And then what I can say is take these and put them into the outline below. So I can say, okay, put these under appropriate headers in the outline below and give each header a title. And so what will then happen is we'll basically, in a matter of 5 or 6 minutes, we'll have basically assembled all of the things that we're going to use for this article. So you can see here that it's even telling me where I'm going to talk about what. You can see that it actually puts in every note. Now, one thing to note here is that when we do this, you'll see that it doesn't actually keep the bidirectional links. You have to go ahead and add them back, but not a big deal because we already have those links. So in a matter of probably less than 5 or 6 minutes, we've taken 7 or 8 different notes. We've been able to access them. And whenever we need to, we can actually have these notes here so that if we wanted to, we can either click on this collection, which is really fast. So we can just say, okay, let me just click on the collection. And anytime we want to access notes inside that collection, we can just go look at them. That's one way to do this. The other option is to just have links to all the different notes right here inside of the article title. So let's say, for example, we got rid of all of this and we only kept the laws of success. Let's just say we took all of these things out. I'm going to take all of these things out for now. And all we had was the laws of success. Well, that's all we need now because of the fact that we have this tag and we can just go and look at everything that is tagged as it relates to this article. So as you're seeing, this is a really, really dramatic change in terms of the writing process for nonfiction authors, simply because of the fact that referencing information and organizing it ends up being a lot more seamless and a lot more frictionless. Like, you're not having to go to multiple different websites, use multiple tools. The more that you capture inside of Mem, the better this becomes. And not only that, you can work non-linearly. So you can just work on an idea as it comes to you. So you get stuck on a section, you can just move on to another one, and you can capture them in different notes and write small, short bursts at a time. So that way you're not getting stuck, thinking that, oh, I have to write this huge thing. So it serves a number of purposes. Not only does it make things easier to organize, but it also ends up streamlining your writing process, and it ends up being a antidote to writer's block. So let's go ahead and put all these things back that we took out of here. So we had, step 2, which was to create a collection. And then step 3 was to organize our notes. So just to recap everything here, what we basically did was we looked at the different notes that we had. We added a bunch of bidirectional links just by pressing the @ symbol. And this is why titles are vitally important to your notes too, because otherwise you're not going to be able to find them when you want to do this. So if you put every note write every note in such a way that it has a title, it becomes much easier to assemble all these things together. And so we're basically just putting in all these different notes here one by one. And basically what you're seeing here is that we now have, all the notes that we want to use with bidirectional links. Alternatively, we can just put them into a collection, and then we can take that collection and we can either put them into the appropriate places in an outline ourselves, or we can use Mem's AI features like Smart Write and Edit to put those references and turn it into an outline. So a good amount of the work ends up being done for us, especially if we've already written a lot of this. And so then your work becomes editing. And just to wrap this up, I'll actually show you an example of an existing article that I'm working on using this exact process. So you can see here that I started with the title, I started with an introduction, but here, even though I have my headers, you'll notice that these are all links to different notes that I've written as the ideas came to me. Some of them I wrote a while back, some of them I wrote recently. You can see here that, there are different things here. But when I'm ready to put this together, which is going to be any day now, then all I have to do is click on each one of these links, copy all the information over here, and I'm ready to go. And I've got an article assembled, and I was able to basically work a little bit at a time, but make a ton of progress by doing tiny little bits every single day. And so you start to see this sort of compound effect. And that happens no matter how much you write, even if you write 2 to 3 notes every day. The more notes that you add, the more the power of this increases. So that's an example of the article. And just to recap again, you've kind of seen the steps here, which is basically first, you're going to add references with bidirectional links. Alternatively, you create a collection. Then you're going to organize them, or you can also use Smart Write and Edit to turn them into an outline. So if you're a nonfiction writer and you haven't tried this yet, I highly, highly recommend using Mem. Try it for a couple of notes, try it for a blog post, put some information that you might need into here and see how it goes. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below.